Welcome to the Belly Brain Connection. I'm Hannah Winans. I'm a certified functional nutrition counselor, and I'm on a mission to help educate people about the connection between their gut health and mental well-being. I believe that our gut health is the cornerstone to our overall health, and when we nourish our bodies, we nourish our minds. Belly Brain is for informational purposes only. I'm not offering medical advice here. So if you need medical advice, please consult your physician. Thanks for tuning back in. Today is episode 13. Last week, we explored fermented foods a little bit more. We learned the phrase, it's fine in the brine, which I've been having fun with all week. We also explored the health benefits of dark chocolate because that was our food of the week in honor of Valentine's Day. And then I shared with you a study that I learned about from Dr. Christopher Palmer, who wrote the book Brain Energy. And it's a study linking insulin resistance in childhood to psychiatric disorders in adulthood. A really alarming study. And I felt that I wanted to get that information out to you all right away. You can find all this information at my bellybrain.com website, where you can click on the tab New this week, and everything's there if you need to revisit the podcast or you want to kind of explore the other things that we talked about. So for today, I thought we would dive into glyphosate, which is a pesticide or herbicide that is used in our crops here in the U.S. I wanted to share with you a little bit about that. It's something that I've been talking about for a couple of years with my family and friends, but I wanted to bring it to the Belly Brain community. You may or may not be aware of it, but I thought we could explore that a little bit more. And then our food of the week this week is the chia seed. Super excited about that. I started incorporating chia seeds into my diet about a year ago. And gosh, there are so many health benefits to this little plant seed. So I wanted to share that with you today as well. So to start off with, there's glyphosate. It's complicated. There's a lot to it. I just kind of want to make you aware of it. And then you can, of course, do your own research. So I thought I would just kind of hit the high points, well, the low points, but I kind of just give you the basics. And it's something that we'll probably explore more in future podcasts. But for now, I just kind of wanted to give you kind of glyphosate 101. So if you see me looking around a lot, if you're watching this, I'm looking at all my different notes. And if you're listening and you hear paper wrestling, I'm sorry, I just have a lot in front of me because I want to make sure I get the correct information to you. So what is glyphosate? Glyphosate is a non-selective herbicide, meaning it kills a wide range of plants. It is the active ingredient in many weed killers, including Roundup. Glyphosate works by inhibiting an enzyme that is essential for plant growth. It is widely used in agriculture, forestry, and lawn care. So I truly believe that anything that kills things probably isn't great for us to ingest. And I know that the government has what they call kind of safe levels of glyphosate to be allowed in foods. But the more I'm learning about it, I really don't feel like any of it's safe. And that's just my opinion. I mean, you can research it, but my belief is that it's the reason why we have a lot of gut dysbiosis in our nation. The fact that it is really used on corn, wheat, all the big ag products seem to have glyphosate on them. And, I think it's maybe a reason why people are gluten intolerant. And I think it's wreaking havoc on all of us. And so I want to share a little bit about how it can harm us, but then I also want to talk about what we can do about it and how we can avoid it. So, glyphosate is routinely used on genetically modified crops such as corn, soybeans, and wheat, as well as oats, legumes, and other produce. It is also present, like I said, in many lawn care products for home and commercial use. So there was a study done it was published in March 1st of 2023, and it was an article from Berkeley Public Health. And basically, the new research from the UC Berkeley School of Public Health shows that childhood exposure to the world's most widely used weed killer, glyphosate, is linked to liver inflammation and metabolic disorder in early adulthood, which could lead to liver cancer, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease later in life. And they had done a study on some of 480 mother-child duos from the Salinas Valley in California. That's a rich agricultural region that locals call the world's salad bowl. And this study was published in the Environmental Health Perspectives. And I won't get too much into it, but they were able to test the urine of the mothers and the children, and kind of they were able to, I guess, check the levels of glyphosate that were in their systems, and they were able to find links to metabolic disorders. And here at Belly Brain, we're always talking about metabolic health and mental health, right? That belly brain connection. And so I see that and think automatically, well, that's going to be super disruptive to gut health and brain health. So there was that study, and there's a lot of other studies out there, but that was the one that stuck out to me because I really was interested I'm really interested in our children and what we can do in the early years to set them up for to be happier, healthy adults. And so I'll post that study to the website. But, with glyphosate, basically the way that I look at it is any kind of snack food that you're eating that's not organic probably has glyphosate in it. And I'm going to actually give you a list of some of the foods that tested highest in glyphosate parts per billion in a minute. But, it's everywhere. So if you have children who love to snack and you're constantly giving them crackers and, the granola bars and those kinds of foods, you really need to be aware of the fact that you'd be giving them glyphosate, and that could be setting them up for some issues later on. And, we don't know, right? So many of these health foods, supposed quote unquote health foods, are really foods that are not good for us, disguised as health foods. And we're going to get into Nature Valley and the damage that they're causing. But, I think a lot of parents mean well, and a lot of adults mean well, and we just don't have all the information. So with Belly Brain, I'm just putting the information out there, and then of course hoping that you can do your own research and make your own decisions. But one of the things that you can do to kind of get, say, out of your home or even out of your system, because it will leave your system after a while if you're not constantly bringing it back in, is to look for organic foods. And I know that can be expensive, but I am seeing that a lot of the big brand stores, even like Costco, are carrying more and more organic foods. Now, there is something called the glyphosate drift, which basically, because this pesticide is sprayed on our crops, they're finding that even with organic crops, it's somehow that the chemical is drifting over to organic crops that could be in the area. So it's not to say that you could go organic and completely avoid glyphosate, but it's probably a better option. That's probably the biggest thing that you can do to try and avoid glyphosate, and then being really aware of the foods that tend to contain a lot of it. There's also, and this was new to me, I didn't know this, there's an organization called the Detox Project, which created a certification process to officially verify the products are free from glyphosate contamination. So you can look for a glyphosate residue free label. And I'll post that label up on the website so you can see what it looks like. It's green and white, I think. But I didn't know to look for that. So I'm going to be on the hunt now. And I will, when I find those products, I will share them here on the podcast and on the website. Okay, so one of the other things I heard, and I have to go back and try and find the study, is that they were linking glyphosate, high glyphosate levels in children to anxiety, which makes sense to me, just because if it's a gut disruptor, or if it's a metabolic disruptor, then of course we know that those things are linked now. So it would make sense that that would cause anxiety in children. And I think about a lot of those products that kids love and the levels of glyphosate that could be in them. And maybe that's contributing to ADHD and anxiety and even depression in some of our kids. So some of the foods that tested highest in glyphosate levels. So what the government says is a safe level or the benchmark for children's consumption of glyphosate is 160 parts per billion. All right, so I'm going to go over a list with you of some of the top offenders. Honey Nut Cheerios, Medley Crunch, 833 parts per billion. Nature Valley Crunchy Granola Bars and Maple Brown Sugar, 566 parts per billion. Nature Valley Granola Cups, 529 parts per billion. Chocolate Peanut Butter Cheerios, 400 parts per billion. Nature Valley baked oat bites, 389 parts per billion. And the list goes on. And I'll tell you, the Nature Valley granola and Nature Valley fruit chews, those, I mean, that's a huge list. I feel like it's maybe almost all their products seem to have, or at least the ones I'm aware of, have higher glyphosate levels in them. And I have known for a while that you have to be really careful with oats, that oats tend to have a lot of glyphosate. The way they're harvested or however they're grown tend to be high in glyphosate levels. The other thing too to look out for is, your GMO foods, those are more resistant to glyphosate. And that is why I think part of the reason why GMOs exist, because they can grow, for whatever reason, they're genetically modified to be able to grow even when glyphosate is sprayed on them. And I'm sure that is not the official sciencey description of it, but from what I was researching, it sounds like that's one of the big reasons why we have so many GMO foods is because they can withstand glyphosate, which is really unnerving. So let's see, what else did I want to tell you about it? Canola. So canola oil, oh my gosh, it's everywhere. First of all, it's not a good oil for us to be eating, but when you think about the fact that there's a lot of glyphosate sprayed on canola crops, corn crops, cotton, soybeans, and wheat, it just makes you really aware that it's kind of in everything we're eating, especially if we're not eating organic. I believe, and I need to fact check this, I believe they don't allow glyphosate in Europe. And I've heard from a lot of people who are gluten intolerant in the United States, but go to Europe and can eat their bread no problem. And I'm wondering if it's not necessarily the gluten that so many people are sensitive to, but the glyphosate that we use to grow the wheat for the products that have the gluten in them. It's just something that I've thought about for a long time. And I've heard that story over and over where people say, oh, I can't eat bread here, but I can eat bread in Europe. They don't do the things to their wheat that we do here. And maybe it's not the glyphosate. Maybe it has to do with the way that wheat's grown and harvested, but I believe there's a connection there. And I think that for a lot of us, it may not be the gluten that we're so sensitive to. And of course, talk to your doctor. I'm not giving medical advice, but maybe it's the chemicals on the things that we're eating that are really wreaking havoc on us. So that's a little bit of Glyphosate 101. I wish I could be go into a little more detail, but there's just so much information here. But I'm going to post a link to the website where you can find all of this. And I was really encouraged to see that there was a glyphosate-free label. I did not know about that. So I'm really excited to hunt down those products and share them with you. Well, we'll move on to something positive, and I'm going to talk to you about chia seeds. So I'm, again, trying to find my notes here. So chia seeds, I think they're super fun. I think if you have kids at home, you could really get into playing around with chia seeds. This isn't just like the chia pet that we'd have, at Christmas time sitting on our counter, which is totally fun too. The seeds are super powerful and they're really healthy for us, and they're kind of weird and they're kind of fun. And so if you can, maybe share this with your kids, share the story of the chia seed and, maybe grow some. You can grow some at your house. They're pretty easy to grow from what I understand, or even just experiment with them. I think this can be kind of fun. So chia seed history and origin. The first presence of chia was recorded as early as 3500 BC. Later, the Aztecs used it. It was in fact one of the main foods in the Aztec diet. The prevalence of chia continued for quite some time. Later, between 1500 and 900 BC, it was grown in Mexico by the Teotihuacan and Toltec people. These people had some surprising uses for chia seeds. So they not only ate the chia seed whole, they ground it into flour. They used it as an ingredient in drinks and pressed it for oil. And it was useful because it could be stored for relatively long periods of time. And so it was perfect for traveling. In addition to these practical uses, the chia seed ran deeper in the blood of the Aztecs. It was sacred and used as a sacrifice in religious ceremonies. The ancient civilizations believed that chia seeds provided supernatural powers. In Mayan, chia means strength. And I thought that was kind of fun. And what a fun thing to share with your kid or your grandkid, right? That chia means strength, and that, that this food will make you strong. I think that kids love to know how foods can help grow them, make them stronger, tougher, make their hair grow longer, whatever it is. I think kids really love to hear those kinds of things and the benefits of the food that they're eating. So this is a great thing to tell your children, especially if you have a little athlete at home that is really focused on becoming stronger and faster. So there is a group of people in Mexico, the Mexican Tarahumara tribe, and they're famous for their runners. And those runners drink a mix of chia seeds, lemon, and water called isquiate. After drinking this, they are said to be able to run hundreds of miles. Something with that kind of track record deserves our attention. So I thought that was kind of really interesting information about the strength of them. And then again, I'm trying to pull up all my notes here, but I'll tell you a little bit about the benefits. Chia seeds are rich in antioxidants, polyphenols. Antioxidants fight free radicals that can damage your cells. Free radicals occur in your body naturally as well as from exposure to harmful substances. So anytime that we can get those antioxidants in, I know we've heard that word a lot, I'm sure in the health world, but always something to look for. And it also, there's been studies showing that can really help your gut bacteria. They're full of fiber, and I make sure I get my chia seeds in every day to kind of keep things moving, keep that gut healthy. Let's see. I know that they're high in protein, so they're a really good plant-based protein. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, great thing to kind of get those chia seeds in. Some of the ways that I like to eat chia seeds, I actually, in the past, I have made kind of a chia seed jam where I took blueberries and kind of cooked them down like you would for a cobbler or a pie. I throw in some allulose. I've been using allulose as a sweetener because I'm always kind of looking low carb. We'll do a whole podcast on allulose. I'm super fascinated with it. But you could use any kind of sweetener that you like, and you put those chia seeds in, and they kind of form something really close to like a jam. And so I've used them that way. I always have a jar of chia seeds soaked in water in my fridge, and I just throw a couple of scoops of that and mix that in with my yogurt every morning. If you want something kind of hot, I don't do oatmeal anymore, although I really love oatmeal. I miss it, but it really spikes my blood sugar. And then, of course, knowing that if they're not organic oats, there's the whole glyphosate thing. I just kind of stay away from them. But I make they're called notes. So they're not really oats, but you can take chia seed. I sometimes will soak them in coconut milk overnight, and then I'll heat them up with some grass-fed butter, or you could use ghee, and throw some walnuts on there and add a little sweetener in there, even throw on some berries. And it's kind of like a nice, warm oatmeal type breakfast, but you're just getting all those good things in. And again, for me, I'm always looking at blood sugar and trying to keep that manageable. So it doesn't really spike my blood sugar the way that oatmeal does, but it still feels really satisfying. So lots of different ways to eat chia seeds. I just saw a recipe for guacamole with chia seeds in it, and I think it could actually be pretty good. So I'm going to try that, because chia seeds, when you can throw them on raw on things and they're kind of crunchy, but if you soak them, they absorb the water and they kind of, I don't know how to describe it. If they kind of become almost like a little tapioca-ish. They kind of form a gel around the seed. And so they have kind of an interesting texture, which is kind of fun, right? So for kids, it would be fun for them to see how fast that can happen. You put the chia seeds in the water, and then quickly they've got it's a whole different texture. It's a whole different kind of food. But yeah, you could throw them on a salad, just, for a little bit of crunch. I've also put them in soups and stews to kind of use as a thickener, because they have that tendency to thicken things up. I had a friend of mine asking me, she was starting to put chia seeds in her smoothies, but it was thickening her smoothie up too much. So I suggested that she pre-soak those and then add them to the smoothie, so they're not absorbing that liquid from the smoothie. So we'll have to see. I'll have to check in with her, see how that works. So lots of benefits for chia seeds. The Mayan people, their word for it being strength, I thought was really interesting. And if you can incorporate it into your diet, I highly advise you do that. Be a little bit careful if you're using them raw, because, or if you're throwing them on a salad, because they could, for me, it seems like they do mess with my stomach a little bit if I eat too many of them raw. So I like to pre-soak mine, but a little bit of sprinkles not gonna hurt you. So try that. Try chia seeds this week. We just went over all the health benefits of it. It's super easy. I'm gonna also try to make the ischiate. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Water. I'm curious how that's gonna be. I like in my mind, I keep picturing like boba tea. I don't know if you're familiar with boba tea with those boba balls in it, which I think is like the oddest thing in the world, but I know kids love it. And I'm thinking, I feel like it's going to be a little bit like that because those chia seeds are going to kind of soak up and lump up. But we'll give it a shot. I mean, if it was great for these runners, I'm sure they can't go wrong. Athletes usually know what's up when it comes to nutrition. So we'll give it a shot. Let's see. I think that's it for this week. Yeah, I am just excited to share with you all things belly brain, and not sure what we'll talk about next week, but I'll come up with something good. I appreciate you being here. And again, go to bellybrain.com to find out more. And I just hope this helps. Have a great day. We'll see you next week. Bye.